Hey guys, before I start, I have a quick preface?
Preface.
Okay, so before I start, I have a quick preface. The series that I'll be talking about today is similar in background to another series I've talked about, that being The Breaker. The Breaker is a martial arts story that breaks conventions, and in that way, the series is going to sound a bit familiar to those of you who watch those videos, because this video is also about a martial arts story that breaks conventions. However, I do feel this is a worthwhile topic to cover because of the differences in the conventions that are being broken. And again, there will be some small rehash of topics since I'll try to give everyone enough context going into this video to understand what I'll be talking about, but I'll try to talk about it in a new and stimulating way. Okay, so martial arts stories usually follow one of two paths. Either they're set centuries in the past or they're set in modern day. And both of these subgenres have their own tropes and cliches in and of themselves. And before you ask or are curious, there isn't really a real subgenre which I think is better than the other. They both have series that I think are great, and they also have series that make me regret my life choices. Anyways, The Breaker is the second of these two types. It takes place in some general approximation of the modern day, with phones, cars, skyscrapers, and all that jazz. But the series I'll be talking about today, The Master of Goo, takes place centuries in the past. Okay, so some background information real quick, because to know how the Master of Goo breaks tropes, you first need to know what those tropes actually are to start out with. So normally these martial arts series set in the past are like actually the most formulaic thing in the world. They have the same power systems, the same characters, the same people and societies. It's like so bad sometimes. Like if you've read one mid-martial arts story, you've read them all. Okay, so in these martial arts stories, the main character, whose hair color can range anywhere from hot pink to neon green, is usually a sad boy, often overlooked in favor of somebody else in their family, say a cousin or relative or older brother. And the main character is usually bullied constantly because of their weakness, or something of that nature. And then at the start of the story, the main character usually finds out through some means that they weren't a piece of trash, are in fact the coolest and most powerful person in all of the history of mankind, even stronger than all of the people who used to bully them. Yeah, that sounds completely normal and not like a cop-out in any way. So, through the course of the story, the main character, with his newly acquired cool, awesome, and totally well-earned powers, goes around doing what they want when they want it, usually beating up and getting revenge on their former tormentors along the way. And this may seem like a decent plot structure on the surface, and it may be, but it gets kinda old when I read it in literally every single martial arts story out there. So yeah, I'm a bit tired of that whole deal, and don't ask why I keep reading these stories, I have a problem. But anyways, when I was reading through my 5th or 6th martial arts story of the day, I stumbled across one that didn't seem as cliché as the rest of them. It has an original magic system and like a new and interesting take on the genre. And yeah, okay, it's also really damn edgy, so that's kind of the real reason I like it so much, but the other things still apply too. So, in the story of the Master of Goo, you remember that older brother character that overshadows the main character in other martial arts stories of this type? Yeah, that's who our main character is now. Our main character is that archetype of the salty older sibling who's less talented than their younger brother somehow, and grows up to turn evil. Except, in the future, when this older brother character is being hunted down and killed for his crimes, he finds a way to go back in time. And okay, sure, I may be a bit biased here, because that's just as contrived and BS a story beat as the ones in other martial arts stories. But I do like this one better because the story which follows it is so much more interesting than those other stories. So this evil piece of crap comes from the future back into his younger self, before it's revealed that his younger brother has better talent than him. But instead of treating his younger brother better than he did before, or like trying to get on his good side, the main character, whose name is Feng Yuan, tramples on his brother even further, resolving to never be overtaken like he was in his past life. And through the story, Feng Yuan uses his immense knowledge of the future to amass strength at an insane rate, overtaking even his immensely talented younger brother. And just for a little bit more detail, talent in that world isn't exactly what it is in this one. It's a rating that represents the limit of a martial artist in The Master of Goo. Those with lackluster talent can basically never stand on equal footing with those who are naturally gifted. And actually, now that I say that, the story is actually weirdly uplifting for some reason, even though it's about an older brother who's constantly oppressing and bullying his peers. Feng Yuan has worse talent than everyone else around him, so the story is essentially about an untalented man besting his naturally gifted peers through hard work and dedication. It's just a thought though, I would never read this for motivation, unless your dream is to become like a serial killer or something, because some of the crap Feng Yuan does is downright evil. He never does anything unjustified to innocence, although he does come close to it many times, but the way he treats others is, let's just say, a little bit jarring. He's rude and blunt, but the world around him is also painted as a bad enough place that he's rarely the only one acting in the wrong. And one of my favorite aspects of the story is seeing Feng Yuan, with his twisted sense of justice, beat other people who we also see as amoral. I don't know, I just can't really bring myself to hate him. His plans are always interesting and it's hard to tell what's on his mind, making each chapter a page-turner. But that being said, this story is definitely not for everyone. It isn't a thought-provoking masterpiece like I feel The Breaker is, because like if you strip away the few things that it does to distinguish itself and like the shock factor of the story, it only really has a couple defining features, unlike The Breaker, which when separated from its identity as a martial arts story, still has a lot of amazing things going for it. The art is pretty good, the characters are decent enough, and it's pretty well paced, but if there's one thing that stands out as exceptional even among those things, it would be the magic system. Usually in these trashy martial arts story, there isn't really a magic system. It's just a loosely connected series of power-ups for the main character to grab, so he becomes more powerful than the next weirdo he needs to beat up. But in Master of Goo, there actually is a developed power system that's ingrained into the world. So in the world of the Master of Goo, there's these things called goo, and they're like worms or something, but they exist everywhere, and when they're absorbed by a human practitioner, it gives you some perks and abilities of the particular goo worm you take in. Some can help with defense, some can help with physical strength, and some can just let you shoot lasers out of your hands. But no matter what the ability you're given, the cost of the ability is proportional. From what I could gather, the worm subsides off of your energy as a practitioner, which requires spirit crystals to grow, and the worms themselves need food particular to them to survive. Like the alcohol worm needs booze to survive, and the jade pendant worm needs jade to survive, stuff like that. So there's inherent positives and negatives to using a goo worm, and it may not sound like much when I describe it, but trust me, this is more than you get in many of the stories of this type, so I'll just take whatever I can get. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I found this series a lot more interesting than others of its type and decided that it's important enough to spread the word about. This video was more casual than my other ones because it's not something I feel like really deeply about and have an emotional connection to like I did with The Breaker and Drifting Dragons, but I still feel like talking about it. Thanks for watching, guys. I don't know when this came out, it all depends on how long I spent editing it, but yeah, hopefully it didn't take too long. If possible, share it with anyone you think would like it, because after the break I took between my second Breaker video and the Drifting Dragons video, I think YouTube is recommending my videos a lot less than it did before, which, like, fair enough. But yeah, if you think anyone would enjoy these, please just send it to them. Yeah, that's pretty much all for today. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever the hell else YouTubers say nowadays, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.